Hey everybody, right now we're looking at my gourami tank. It's just an impromptu video. I just fed the tank a little bit ago, and I was noticing some interesting behavior in some of the fish in here. What I fed the tank was algae wafers. I have a lot of fish in this tank that are either bottom feeders or algae eaters or off-flux grazers, all of which need lots of vegetation in their diet, but they also need a lot of protein in their diet. And while the off-flux gives protein to the off-flux grazers, and the algae wafers give some protein to them as well, it's often not enough to fully satisfy their needs for protein. A lot of people don't realize that, but the kind of fish we often think about as algae eaters, the Otocinclus, we got a little treat right there of my little whiptail catfish swimming around. He's another one that's a all-flux grazer. The types of fish that we would think of as a sucker mouth fish, these little Otocinclus we can see in here. I have some rubber lip plecos, this little Farlowella whiptail catfish we were just looking at. These all do get a lot of protein from the off-flux they graze, and you can see how clean all of the rocks are. You can see how nice and green all of the plants are, and that's because this little army of off-flux grazers in here go around the tank and clean it up. You can even see scrapes and teeth mark in the wood. So what I noticed was one of the Otocinclus had more or less attached himself to the side of that Moonlight Gourami you can see back there in the corner. That's actually the reflection. She is eating an algae wafer. She's working on a piece of algae wafer. I break them up into smaller pieces and put them in there, and that way everybody can get some. So when I noticed the Otocinclus sort of grabbing a hold of the side of the Moonlight Gourami, and it may very well have been this one, I don't know the difference, I can't tell them apart, but what's going on there is they are actually attacking the slime coat on the larger fish, the flat-bodied fish. It's often recommended that you don't put Chinese algae eaters in with angelfish. In fact, we can have a look right here. He's actually out at the moment. I have a pretty large Chinese algae eater in this tank, and I have indeed on many occasions seen him attempt to attached to the side of the angelfish. You know, these nice big flat-bodied fish. That's perfect target for a sucker mouth type fish like this Chinese algae eater, or in the case of this tank, it was the Otocinclus. So to alleviate that, I simply put some shrimp pellets in the tank. In fact, if you will look right there, you can see one of my skunk loaches working on one of the shrimp pellets, and they've all been carried around the tank and distributed, and I think you can see one back there in the corner. That's a good source of protein, and it's a source that those off-flux grazers will find and get. They're on the bottom of the tank. I don't have fish in this tank that actually just gulp and swallow them down. Well, I do, but he doesn't come out very often, and that is my striped Raphael catfish that hides down in this corner. He's big enough to gulp down one of those little shrimp pellets all in one go, but he's kind of nocturnal, doesn't come out a whole lot, so I don't have too much to worry about him. So I get a little more protein down on the bottom of the tank. I get a little more protein to these off-flux grazing animals, and then no more problem with them attaching to the sides of my fish. So the whole point to that is something I mentioned recently, and that is you've got to pay attention to your animals. They will tell you what they need. You just have to understand what they're saying to you. And the moment I saw one of the Otocinclus trying to attach to the side of one of the gourami, that's what it was telling me. It was telling me I need more protein in my diet. I'm not getting enough protein. So I need to make the adjustment. And I did so simply by throwing some shrimp pellets in there. I've done this before. I know the routine. It's a balance. I don't want to overload the tank with shrimp pellets and protein and over-protein these fish, the gouramis in particular. need a high vegetation diet. If you give the gouramis too much protein, they can get constipated pretty easily, and that can be really bad for them. It can kill them if you don't catch it in time. In fact, it will kill them if you don't catch it in time. I've lost a gourami that way before. So you got to be careful with too much protein, but at the same time, too little, and you'll start running into issues with other fish. I've had it happen in this tank, as I mentioned before, with this Chinese algae eater, and I've learned that all I've got to do is make sure I get some meatier type foods in there, some algae wafer. If I haven't been throwing enough algae wafer in there, I can increase that. And I always, as soon as I notice I'm going after any kind of flat-bodied fish, I immediately start putting shrimp pellets and more protein-rich foods in the tank, and then that behavior stops. So pay attention to your animals, watch them, study them, learn them, get to understand their habits and behavior. You should also understand their needs. If you don't realize that these fish need protein, then even though you might look at that behavior and say, well, that behavior is unusual, you may not understand the behavior and you may not know why they're doing it. If you know the animal's needs and you realize that they do need a lot of protein, well, now you'll know this behavior is unusual, and why is he doing that? Well, he's probably trying to get more protein and he needs more of it. You can make an adjustment, and then your tank goes back to being nice and happy and nobody's getting chomped on or injured. So thanks for watching. This is my angelfish tank, as I said, and we started over here with my gourami tank. So go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. You get a lot of stuff with me. It's usually spur of the moment. I have a lot of different tanks, and you never know what you're going to get, so if you're subscribed, you'll miss none of it. So thanks for watching this one again. Hope you enjoyed. Hope that was helpful to somebody, and I will see you real soon on the next one.